والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So inshallah this will be the second reading from the book Iqtidaa us-Siraat-il-Mustaqeem. طيب. And we talked about last time the beginning of the author's introduction, talking about the name of the book, the title of the book, and what the author had to say about that. We're not going to retranslate that portion, but who can read that portion for us, inshallah? تفضل إن شاء الله. من بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أكمل لنا ديننا وأتم علينا نعمته ورضي لنا الإسلام دينا وأمرنا أن نستهديه صراطه المستقيم صراط الذين أنعم عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم اليهود ولا الضالين النصارى.
أحسن.
وأشهد أن
So هذا ما أكملنا من في الدرس الماضي. So we talked about that. The Shaykh Hafidhullah giving us in a couple of sentences what this lesson is about, what this book is about. The necessity of following the straight path. The four things we're going to learn about is what is the straight path. And we now know what is the straight path. What is the straight path? Quran, Sunnah, way of the Sahaba. Right? Quran, Sunnah, way of the Sahaba. So we know what is the straight path. We're going to know why is the straight path necessary? Or why? Okay, we're going to know what is the straight path. We're going to know what's opposite of the straight path. What is the way of the people of the hellfire? Who are they, should we say? Let's make it that way then. Who are they? Right? Not just specifically, but the people who have knowledge and don't act, or the people who act without knowledge. Right? And from them are the Yahud and the Nasara. We're going to know why the straight path necessitates it. That's what we were going at, which is it's the requirement of having knowledge and action. So what is the straight path? And then we're going to talk about who are the people on the straight path. We already mentioned them, the Sahaba. طيب. So now we have the next statement of the author, inshallah. The way we'll do it is we'll read. The person who reads translates. We'll talk about whatever needs to be talked about in it, and then read it one more time, and then keep it moving, inshallah. فتفضل من يقرأ.
وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالدين القيم والملة الحنيفية وجعله على شريعة من أمره أمره باتباعها
أمره أو أمر باتباعها. It's both. It's in different manuscripts both ways.
أمره باتباعها وأمره بأن يقول هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما.
حسبك. Now, translate, inshallah. Not translate, but tell me what you got from that. يلا.
نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله الله سبحانه وتعالى بالدين القيم الدين الذي هو ملة الحنيفية. هي ملة الحنيفية وجعله على شريعة من أمره وأمره باتباعه. يعني أمر الله النبي باتباع هذه الآية.
هذا الدين. نعم. هذا الشريعة. هذه الشريعة.
وأمره بأن يقول هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة.
طيب. ممتاز. هذا هو. I left the English translation at home. I don't think anybody. So, well, can I see your? Can we share? I left my book in the car, but I don't need the book, inshallah. But we'll see. So the author, he says, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and I testify that there's no deity worthy of worship other than Allah. وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ, alone without any partner. And I testify وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, and I testify that Muhammad is his slave and his messenger. أَرْسَلَهُ بِالدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ, he sent him with that religion that is qayyim. مِلَّةِ الْحَنِيفِيَّةِ, وَالْمِلَّةِ الْحَنِيفِيَّةِ, and that millah that is Hanifiyya, that millah that turns away from idolatry. وَأَمَرَهُ أَنْ وَجَعَلَهُ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ, and he placed him, i.e. he placed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam على شريعة, upon a sharia from his affair, from the shara'i of Allah. He placed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a sharia from his shara'i, from Allah's shara'i. And he commanded him to follow it. And he commanded him, وَأَمَرَهُ أَنْ يَقُولْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي, this is my straight path, or this is my path. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, I call to Allah. عَلَى بَصِيرَةً أَنَا وَمَنَ اتَّبَعَنِي, upon clear-sightedness am I, as well as those who follow me. نعم. وسبحانallah wa ma ana minal mushrikeen. He says, وعلى الله وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما. May the salat of Allah Azza wa Jal be upon him, as well as upon his family, in an abundance of peace. So this is the translation. طيب. فيها من الفوائد. And we're going to try not to go as long as we did last time, so we can actually get through the book. But there are a lot of things to talk about, obviously. One quick thing to talk about is the etiquette of beginning. How do you begin a book? Right? 4 things they say are from the wajibat of writing. When you write a book, 4 things they say are from the wajibat. It doesn't mean it's wajib. You sin if you don't do it. But if you're going to write a book, you need to have 4 things in it to start off with. The basmala, or you can say the hamdala, or you can consider them as one, right? The basmala / hamdala, the sending of salat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the shahada, right? So the basmala / hamdala, the shahada, the sending of salat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the statement amma ba'd. These 4 things you should always have in your introduction when you're writing. Then they mention 4 things that are suitable to also be had, and then some of them add to those 4 things. So from the things that are suitable to be had is mentioning the name of the thing that you're writing. What did you call it? Mentioning when did you write it? Mentioning why did you write it? Mentioning the detailed chapters of it. What are the topics that you're going to cover? When did you write it? Why did you write it? When did you write it? Why did you write it? Its name, your name, right? Your name, its name. When did you write it? Why did you write it? A dua for those who read it, or just generally including in it a dua. And then likewise, doing all of that with bara'atul istihlal, doing all of that with cleverness in a way that isn't just check, 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 right? Presenting it in a way that's clever and stylish. These are the 10 things that a lot of them call this. So some of them call them muqaddimat al-ashr, the 10 things that need to be in your introduction, right? Now, so these things we see in any good book. You see a good author, he'll incorporate them. The Shaykh Hafidhullah, he had the basmala, the hamdallah. He had the shahada. He had the sending of salat upon the Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, he has wa ba'd, right? As we're going to come and continue to read, we're going to see why he wrote the book, right? The reason why you wrote it. He doesn't mention his name, right? He doesn't mention specifically when, but he gives us a time period. He doesn't necessarily make a dua for us, like when you see like Shaykh al-Islam ibn Abdul Wahhab, i'lam rahimakallah, right? To make that dua for the person, right? The Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, he has a clever introduction, and like this, you see them incorporating these things. And the only reason we mention it is because nowadays, people have standards. People have standards when you write a book, you write a paper. People have expectations of how that paper should be presented, correct? And it should never be forgotten that we as Muslims, we have our own set of standards and our own systems. And these are the things that we should learn, right? So when they tell us present your paper like this, if you're in school and you're writing a paper, you have a paper in your communications class or in your mathematics class, you got to write a thesis. Am I just going to start it any old way? No, I'm going to start my paper. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu, right? Because we have our system of how we present, right? So that's one thing to mention, how we can see the author incorporating that. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, right? We understand the shahada. We won't talk too much about that. Wahdahu la sharika lah. I testify that there's no deity worthy of worship alone without any partner. And I testify that Muhammad is the slave of Allah and his messenger. And this is obviously a good benefit for us to keep in mind, how Allah and how we gather for the Prophet between two qualities, servitude and messengership, so that we don't go past the limits with him, nor do you find us reducing his status. He's a slave like us. All of us are slaves of Allah, and he's a slave like us. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. Is there anything different from him and us in that regard? So where's the difference? That he's a messenger. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ. That's what sets me out. And this thing that sets him out, who gave him that thing? Allah. And so Allah يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. Allah creates what he wants and he chooses. And so like this, the Muslim, he doesn't go overboard in the messenger, nor does he reduce from the messenger. And in this is that cleverness again. We're talking about levels and levels of wisdom and cleverness. Who went overboard in their messenger? The Nasara. Who was deficient in their messengers? The Yahud. And who are we? In the middle. Mustaqeem, straight path. فَنَحْنُ لَا نَعْبُدُهُ كَمَا عَبَدَهُ النَّصَارَى وَلَا نُقَلِّلُ مِنْ شَأْنِهِ كَمَا يُقَلِّلُ مِنْ شَأْنِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ أَوْ أَسْوَأَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ يَسُبُّهُمْ وَيَقْتُلُهُمْ. Even worse than that, they kill and they curse them. You find a Muslim مستقيما. So he says, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَرْسَلَهُ بِدِينِ الْقَيِّمِ. He sent him with this deen al-qayyim. And al-qayyim, it has a multitude of meanings inside of it. This religion is qayyim, i.e. it has al-qiyam al-aliyah. It is full of great values, right? They call them qiyam, the values that it teaches us. Where did you learn righteousness? Where did you learn piety? Where did you learn tolerance? Where did you learn strength? Where did you learn patience? Where did you learn aggressiveness at the time of aggressiveness? This religion, it teaches us our what? Our values. And so every group of people have their own set of values, what they deem important. And the Muslims, we have our what? Our own set of values. And our set of values are our religion, because our religion encompasses all. So he sent the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with this deen that is full of these values. قُلْ إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمُ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Indeed, I was only sent to complete what? The good character. To establish these values. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Indeed, you are on a great set of morals. So this deen is value. It's full of values. And these values are yani qayyim, straight. There's no crookedness in us. There's no biasness. There's no partialness, right? We follow these values because this religion is qayyim. It's straight, huh? Upright, right? Mustaqeem, from the same word. So these values, they keep us what? They keep us straight. The religion is full of these values, and these values keep us straight. And they also, so the values are what? Right. There's no error in our values. If somebody tries to say something about Islam is wrong with it, the answer is that our values are what? Straight. Our values are straight. Our values are right. You should not be in doubt about that which Islam is encouraging you to. You should not be in doubt what Islam is forbidding you from, because the values in Islam are right. They're straight. And they also do what? If the values are right, what do? They make you straight. Qayyam, to make you straight. Qayyamahu. He straightened him out. Right? So, the religion is full of values. The values are straight. They're correct. They're the good values. They're the right values. And when you adopt these values, they do what? They straighten you out. When we look at the societies and we find the faults in societies, what are these faults the result of? Not following the values. Or having values that aren't straight. Meaning they don't have any values. Their deen doesn't have any qiyamah. Their deen doesn't have any values, any qiyam. Or it has values, but the values themselves are not what? Not straight. Or it has straight values, but what are they not doing? Following them, being straightened out by them. But our deen, we have the values, our values are right, and they straighten us out. Deenun qayyima. Right? And for that reason, it's the religion that does what? Straightens out all of the other religions. Deenun qayyim. It fixes all the mistakes that the other people did. Right? Al-Yahud, they had the book for a moment, and then they started to do what? Ya'waj. They started to ya'waj. They started to deviate. And when they started to deviate, Allah did what? Straightened them out with Islam. The societies we live in, this might have been a good place once upon a time. America might have been, mashallah, once upon a time. But what happens? They start to deviate. What can Islam do? Straighten them out. So this deen is qayyim, millata hanifiyya. It's the millah, and this word millah comes to be, I'm trying to remember correctly, like these words, a lot of times we know the words. We can say the religion, right? But is that what the word comes from, religion? What does religion even mean? And I don't have my book, and now I'm struggling to remember. If I'm not mistaken, the word millah comes from to be full of. Right? From millah. But there's a benefit here that I want. Oh, no. It comes from where's it at? Because I left my notes. Because there's a nice benefit in millah. And I know where it's at. I just got to get to the word. Because it comes from to dictate. It comes from the word amla alayhi, to dictate. Now, malala. So it comes from the meaning of the word to dictate, right? If you tell somebody something quickly, right? And so this religion is the millah. It gives us all of this information, right? And all of this information in a way, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's a millah. Like, it's telling you everything you need to know. It's telling you, that's what we say, like, because religion, a lot of times people don't understand what the word religion means. What is the deen? What is this religion? Like, we know deen comes from dana yadinu, right? Dainan. To what is owed, right? No, deen, it comes from the word what is owed, right? So what do you owe Allah? Yeah, what do you owe him? Ibadah, obedience. And what do you get for your deen? What is owed to you. If you had the good deen, you get repaid in kind. And if you had a bad deen, you get repaid in kind. And that's why the word deen comes from that word debt, what is owed, right? And that's why you find the word deen having these meanings in it. Obedience. The Arabs, when you go to a city, what do they call a city? Medina. It's the place of deen. Deen here meaning obedience. It's the place of obedience. Because when you're out in the wilderness, whose rules do you have to follow? Nobody's. But when you're in the Medina, you got to now listen and obey. And that's why they changed the name of the city Yathrib to what? Medina? No. No, definitely not Medina Munawwara. Al-Madinatu An-Nabawiyya. This is the place of obeying the Prophet. Hada Madinatu Nabi. The place of obeying the Prophet. This is what you owe him. This is what he is owed. So we understand deen. But a lot of people, we don't understand millah. It's telling us everything we need to know. It's telling us everything. You need to know how to eat. Where do you get that from? You get it from our millah. You need to know how to drink, how to sleep, how to stand, how to sit. This is our millah. It dictates to us everything that we need to know. Millatun Hanifiyya. And this millah, how is it described? Hanifiyya. Hold on, I thought you said it's qayyim. Is the millah qayyim or Hanifiyya? It's qayyim and Hanifiyya. Its values are right. It straightens us out. But it also turns away from idolatry. Hanifiyya means to turn away. Right? فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ فَقَالَ إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ. Right? He looked in the stars and he said, I'm sick. Ibrahim alayhi salatu, I'm sick of these gods that you guys are worshiping. And he did what? فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌ لِي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Indeed, they're all enemies to me except the Lord of al-Alameen. So this millah turns away from idolatry in all of its ways. Hold on. Look at what he's doing. Like the greatness of his expression. Not everybody can do this. If the millah turns away from idolatry in all of its thing and everything, what can we not do? Our millah, what is the millah? Everything. It dictates to us everything. How do you dress? I dress according to the millah. How do you eat? I eat according to the millah. How do you think? How do you act? How do you carry yourself? It's according to this millah. If this is the millah, what does this millah do? What does it do? No, that was the deen. Qayyim made it straight. What does this millah do? It turns away. Hanifiyya, millatun. If the millah turned to, so the millah is everything, and everything that we do does what? Turns away from what? From shirk, bid'ah, batil, in every fashion. What does the straight path necessitate? That you be different. There's no way we can be the same. Because our millah did what? It turned away. There's no way we can be the same. Our millah turned away. If they're doing that, what did my millah do? If they eat this way, what did my millah do? If they pray this way, what did my millah do? My millah is Hanifiyya. It turned away from everything they did. It necessitates being different. Millata Hanifiyya. He says, Millata al-Hanifiyya وَجَعَلَهُ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ. And he made him, i.e. the Prophet ﷺ, on a sharia. These words are beautiful in their meaning. Like we know these words. Sharia, what's sharia? Huh? Legislation, rulings, halal, haram. Like, is that what it means though? You don't get this except through the Arabic. Like, we know words, but we don't understand. Sharia, mawrid al-ma. It's the pathway that leads to the water. It's the pathway that leads to the water. That's a sharia. So Allah made the Prophet ﷺ ala shari'atin min al-amr. He put him on a sharia. The Prophet's way leads where? To the water. To the water. What do you get from the water? Nutrition. Life. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. So our life is contingent upon what? Water. Contingent upon water. And there's no way to get to that water except through the sharia. The halal gets you where? The haram, staying away from the haram gets you where? Doing the mustahab gets you where? Avoiding the makruh gets you where? This sharia, it's the pathway that leads to our life. Right? So he placed him on this sharia. The sharia is that life-giving source. And if it's the life-giving source, then what do we base our life on? We base our life on our Sharia because it's what gives us life. And so everything that we base in our life is based on the Sharia. It can't be based on anything else. وَجَعَلَهُ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ وَأَمَرَهُ بِاتِّبَاعِهِ. And he commanded him to follow it. The Prophet ﷺ had to follow the Sharia. If the Prophet had to follow the Sharia, who else has to follow it? Everybody. If he had to follow it. إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَمَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بِمَا أَمَرَ بِهِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. Or إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَمَرَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ بِمَا أَمَرَ بِهِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فَقَالَ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّبِيُّ كُلُّ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَاعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا إِنِّي بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ عَلِيمٌ. Right? And Allah, the hadith, the sahih, that Allah commanded the prophets with the same thing that he commanded the righteous people with. So the prophet has to follow it. And what did Allah say to us about our prophet? قَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. If that's the case, he made him a qudwa. What's a qudwa? A leader. Qad. Right? You say qadahum. He leads them. Follow the leader. Right? So if the messenger's on the path, and Allah told us that he is a good leader for us, if we hope, if we have iman in Allah and in the last day and remember Allah abundantly, then we're going to follow our leader on what? On his path. And am I going to follow any other leader? Am I going to take any other person as my guide? And so like this, we see, can I put anybody else's way over his way? Will any other path bring me life? Will any other leader get me to the destination? So all I can do is follow who? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say what? هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي. This is my path. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. What am I doing on this path? I'm calling to Allah. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. Now this ayah, it has 2 points of inflection, 2 ways to be inflected, to be said. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ. I call to Allah on clear sight. I and those who follow me. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنْ اتَّبَعَنِي. I call to Allah on clear sight, me and the people that follow me. The other way of inflecting it is by saying, أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنْ اتَّبَعَنِي. I call to Allah. Upon clear sight am I and those who follow me. Right? So it's a slight difference in meaning. Both meanings are true. He calls to Allah on clear sight. The qiyam, we got him. The values are straight. These values, they're right. They're correct. They present the picture correctly. I know where I'm going. On my path, I have what? Clear sight. Ad'u ila Allah. I am on clear sight, and likewise those who follow me. This wordplay at the times of darkness, when people are lost and astray, what are they in? Dalal. Clear error. It's dark. They don't know. What are we on? Clear sight. How did we get on clear sight? Following him. He's calling us to make sure we stay on the path. Right? Every time you hear the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what is he trying to do? Keep you on a straight path. Call Allah. He's calling you so you can be on what? Clear straight. Ala basira. And so, ad'u ila Allah, and this call of his is what gives us this clear sight. He's on it, and likewise those that follow him, they have this clarity in their vision. So if all of these are the qualities of that religion that he was sent with, good morals that are straight, that make straight, a religion that tells us everything and turns away from idolatry, then likewise we turn away. A sharia, a way of life, a source of life that Allah placed him upon it. He's there and he's calling us to it. And we're on clear sight when we answer his call. Why would we follow any other way? Why would we do anything else? This paragraph, we're done. He's told us the whole book again. The first time he told us the whole book by praising Allah. Alhamdulillah. الذي أكمل لنا ديننا وأتم علينا نعمته ورضي له الإسلام دينا. Right? Now he's told us the whole book again by saying أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. طيب. So what did he say? And I testify that there is no deity worthy of worship other than Allah alone without any partners. And I testify that Muhammad is his slave and his messenger. He sent him with the straight religion, the straight deen, a millah that turned away from idolatry. And he placed him on a sharia from his affair, or from the affair. He made him on a sharia regarding this matter. And he commanded him to follow it. And he commanded him to say, this is my straight path, or this is my path. I call to Allah upon clear-sightedness. I and those who follow me, or this is my straight path. Upon clear-sightedness am I and those who follow me. May the salat of Allah be upon him, as well as upon his family, and an abundance of peace. We did forget to mention one thing, going back before we go to the next section. We didn't talk about mustaqeem. We didn't talk about what the meaning of the word Siraat-il-Mustaqeem means. So, some of the qualities of a sirat. A sirat is a path. But it is not considered a path, or a path is not considered a sirat until it's wide. The sirat has to be wide. And it has to be flat. When you say something is a sirat, it's wide and it's flat. Right? And mustaqeem means straight. It doesn't curve or bend. So our religion is what? It is a wide path that's flat, straight, doesn't curve or bend. What's the significance? Like, you got to remember, Allah doesn't choose these words haphazardly. What is the significance of our path being wide?
It's easier, makes it easier.
It makes it easier. We're not crowded on the path, right? There's room. You want to do it this way? Do it that way, akhi. There's room on this path, right? You don't have to step exactly as I stepped, right? You just have to stay on what? You just got to stay on the path. You don't have to step exactly as I stepped, because this path is wide. A wide path also means it's what? Think about driving on the highway. Comfortable, safe. You ever gone around a mountain and the roads get thin? How do you feel? I could fall off at any moment. But this path, it's a 6-lane highway. You drift a little bit, you make a mistake, you fall asleep a little bit behind the wheel, no problem. You'll be okay, because the path is what? You won't fall off easy. You have to intentionally step out, because our path is wide. What does a wide path also connotate? Huh?
Big.
Yeah, it's big. Fast? Well, not necessarily. That's how you travel on the path. You can go fast, yeah, but a wide path connotates companionship in it, because you can fit more people there, right? If we're all going somewhere, we're going to take the big path, right? Because we can all fit in it together. We can all get there together. So you'll have companionship on that path. That companionship might not be in the same lane as you, but it'll be in that path. You'll see them. You'll pass them by, right? This is the path that everybody takes, because it's the big way to get there. If you're traveling from here to Kansas City, which way do you go?
70.
You don't take 40? You don't take 50?
70.
Why you take 70? Because it's the big path. You can take the back streets all the way, right? But you take the big path because you feel comfortable, because you see the other people there. At nighttime, You see everybody on 70. When you're driving through the back roads, you're like, where am I at? Man, why'd you get off the highway? We should have stayed on everybody's on the highway. They got the gas station, they got the Burger King, we can stop. There's people there. It's inhabited. You see what I'm saying? But the other path, that's not a sirat. No, it's not. It's not like that. So this path is a sirat. We said it's wide. And there's other benefits you can get from it. Then we said it's to be a sirat, it has to be what? Flat. It's not this. Why? It's not hard. It's not hard. The path is easy. There's no ups and downs and ups and downs. It's not hard. It does not require a lot of effort. It doesn't take a lot out of you to follow this path. You want to follow this path? It's simple. Just a little bit. You can skip down this path. What else? It's not hard. What else about being flat? It's easy, not hard. You can see what's coming. Yeah. You see your destination better. Right? You can see where you're going better. It's a good benefit. A flat path, I can see we're almost there. Well, we're not that far. You don't see the arch in the distance? It's right there. We're almost there. Another 5 minutes. What else? I'm thinking about something specific.
You want to trip?
Huh?
You want to trip?
I'm telling you, that's a good benefit. That's one of the ones I thought about. I wasn't thinking about it right now. There's no potholes. There's no pitfall because it's flat. The road is paved, right? You're not going to walk and stumble. If you stay on this path, you won't fall. What else?
But if you have that kind of path, why are you choosing the other path?
Oh, that's obvious. If you have that kind of path, why would I take the back roads? Why would I take the hilly mountain paths, right? I'm going to take the one that keeps it flat. You're balanced. You won't mess up your wheels, right? Because the road is flat. You're balanced. You're always not too high, not too low. And this pathway is where? It's in the middle. It's flat. You're here. You're level all the time. And it has to be mustaqeem. Our path, the sirat that we're on, is mustaqeem. It's straight. It doesn't bend. This is what Amr wanted. Since it doesn't bend, how does it get us there?
Straight.
Quickly. It's the quickest route. This is the quickest route. It doesn't go here and then come here and then come back and then go down here again and then back up. The path is straight. It's the quickest way to get to Jannah. Some people, they take the other path. They take the long way around. Al-Razi, Al-Ghazali, Al-Jawaini. What did they do? They took the long way, right? They went over here, talked to philosophy for a minute, spent all this time going there, and then the GPS said redirecting and brought them back to the path. All of that work they did, Fadl. Yeah, they went this way. They went up the highway. We're not going to take the easy road, the simple road, the balanced road, the wide road, the road where all of the Salaf was at. This is the way Abu Bakr took and Umar took. All of them. No, we're going to take this way. What's over here? They went into the little town and they followed that path. And that path was this. And then eventually, like you guys know on the highway, when there's an accident, you got to take that detour. And that detour does all of this till it gets you back to the highway. And that's if you don't make the wrong turn. Because if you make the wrong turn, you might never get back to the highway. That's what they did. They went down the wrong path. They followed that detour. Alhamdulillah, we hope for them that they made it back to the highway. Jawaini, Razi, Ghazali, we hope they made it back to the highway. And these were the pillars of what? The pillars of philosophy. And we hope they made it back to the highway. What about those lesser than them? That old man who didn't want to check his directions, who didn't want to listen to his wife who said you should stop and ask. And who you going to ask on this road? There's nobody here. Right? So subhanAllah, like this visualization of understanding what he's talking about, this is the Siraat-il-Mustaqeem. So, this section, before that, I forgot to ask last time, one of the things we're supposed to do, were there any words in the previous paragraph that you didn't know? Were there any words in the previous prayer where أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالدين القيم والملة الحنيفية وجعله على شريعة من الأمر وأمره باتباعه وأمره بأن يقول قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Any words that we didn't know that, تفضل. So millah, it comes from the word malala, right? Malala, this is what Ibn Manzur says. Ibn Manzur, it's a dictionary known as Lisan al-Arab. There are two dictionaries as a student above all that you really want to get. Lisan al-Arab by Ibn Manzur and a book called Maqayis al-Lugha by Ibn Faris. Anytime you read, like when you write a paper, the first thing you have to do is define the word. We say salat. What does salat mean? So you have to present the dictionary, the dictionary definition. What dictionary do you want to use? Ibn Manzur and Ibn Faris. These are above all, right? Especially because of what they had from accuracy and mu'taqid to some extent. Because sometimes you'll get other dictionaries like Al-Bahr al-Muhit. You guys might have heard of that dictionary also, Al-Bahr al-Muhit. And that's a good dictionary, but it was authored by an individual named Al-Fayruzabadi. And Al-Fayruzabadi was Mu'tazili. He was Mu'tazili. And that's a lot of times what you have to be careful from dictionaries and books of language. The people that excel, the people that showed off in the language were usually deviant. And we fixed the word from excel because they didn't excel in the language. Instead, they showed off in the language. And they used the language as a medium to further their innovation, right? And that's what I used to say, that language is like salt. You need just enough to do what? Make your food taste good. But too much would ruin it. So it's good to know who the Salafis were in language, because know for sure that the people of innovation, their first tool to enter innovation upon you is misunderstanding the language. And that is universal. How did the Christians go astray? They lost the language of their prophet. They took the statements of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam and gave them to who? The Greek-speaking Romans, and then the Latin-speaking Romans, and till it became watered down. We don't know what he said because they lost the language. Well, the Quran is, that's an important statement. We don't say the Quran is created, because who said the Quran? Who said it? Who was the first one to say it? I'm asking him. Who was the first one to say the Quran, to tell us the Quran? Who told him? Allah. So Allah said the Quran, right? Allah told the angel Gabriel, who told the Prophet Muhammad. Is Allah created? No. So what Allah said isn't created. So we avoid that type of statement saying the Quran is created. We say Allah sent it down. He revealed it, right? And so the point of it is, it's the only book that is in the same way that Allah revealed it. It's the same way Allah revealed it. What did Allah say? Tell me something Allah said. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Qul huwallahu ahad. Allah said that. How did it sound when Allah said it? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Qul huwallahu ahad. That's how it sounded. Right? Because Allah said what? What did he say first? Qul huwa Allah or ahad? What did he say first? Qul. Did he use letters?
Those letters, yeah.
Qul. He said qul with the Arabic letters qaf and lam. Right? Did it have a sound to it when he said it? It sounded like what? Qul. In spite of all of that, is it created? No. Because who said it? Allah. And the actions of Allah aren't created. And it's the same way as when he said it to Jibreel, as to when Jibreel told Muhammad, as to when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the Sahaba. And it's the same Quran that I memorized in my heart that I say with my tongue or that I read on the paper? Is there a difference between them? That Quran is the same Quran, right? And so you're right. The Quran is the only book that has not been changed. But anyway, we said the dictionaries that you want to get are known, the ones, because the people of innovation, they lead you astray through language. SubhanAllah, just another quick benefit. And I'm sorry to cram it all in, but it's important to get it at some point in time. This ummah was singled out with 3 qualities: the chain, the language, and the lineage. The chain, the chain in our narrations, in our religion. All of our religion is based on what the people before us did. And we have that chain. Does any other religion have the chain? And that chain is what saves our what? Our religion. The next thing, it says the Arab specifically, right? But Islam, the Muslims. The next thing that we were singled out with as Muslims is the what? The language. Our language has been preserved from the time that the Quran was sent in our language to preserve it. And it's been preserved since that time until now. Does any other group of people have their language preserved like we do? No. And the preserving of the language protects our what? Our tongue. Right? We know what we're talking about, our minds. Because the words prove what? Huh? They do prove a lot, but what do words represent? Thought. And what is thought? How smart you are. The language is a representation of your intellect. That's why groups of people who have a poor language are usually less intellectual. While the people who have a big language, because they have more ideas, more comprehension, more ability to express.
They said that the Arabic language, the richest.
It's one of the richest languages, if not the richest. And I would lean to the richest because that's what Allah said. Qur'anan Arabiyan, for what purpose? وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. The language represents, it is the manifestation of your intellect. And so if you understand this language, you protect your tongue, it protects your mind or your intellect, right? We should go like this, your intellect. Then the last thing that we've been singled out with is our what? Our lineage, our nasab, right? Where do we come from? Who was before us, right? Where do I descend from? And what does that protect for us? Our history. And these 3 things are necessary for each other. Can you understand the religion without correct language? Can you understand the religion without knowing the history? And can you know the history separate from the religion? Or without the impact that it had in the language? And where do we get our good language from? The religion, the Quran. And where do we get the good language from? History. If it was said before the time of the Sahaba or after the time of the Sahaba, is it real Arabic or this Darija? Is it this new Arabic that came after they mixed with this and that and the third? All of these things are what preserve for us Islam. And these qualities, you don't find them in other places, especially to the extent that we have them in Islam. So the point is that these 2 dictionaries, Lisan al-Arab, the tongue of the Arabs, the language of the Arabs, and Maqayis al-Lugha, the scales of the language. Going back to the word millah, which was the question that you asked, he says, malala. That's the origin of that. Malala. Millah, that shadda, malala. That's how you would look it up in the dictionary. This is Lisan al-Arab. He says, malala al-malal huwa an tamalla shay'an wa tu'ridu. Malla, al-malal is to dictate something and present it. Right? To present it. The poet, he said, وَأَقْسِمُ مَا بِي مِنْ جَفَاءٍ وَلَا مَلَلٍ. Right? وَأُقْسِمُ. And I swear that there is no harshness in me, nor is there any malal. Right? There's no dryness in me. When I talk, I'm not dry, nor am I malal, nor am I over-presenting. I'm not saying too much. I'm balanced out, right? لا جفاء في ولا ملل. He says, and a rajulun millatun or millatun, and a person is a millah if he dictates things to his brother's fast. So say what I say right now, right? He's mel when he dictates to them fast. And you say melit الشيء ملة ومللا وملالا وملالة بدمت به واستمللت كمللت. And then he just goes on and gives all the different usages of the word. He says, and from it is ملت الشيء بالكسرة ومللت منه إذا سئمت. And that's also where the word boring, that's where they get the word boring from. Right? Yamilluhu, because he's boring, he said too much. Right? Like we doing right now. So the point of it is that's where some of the word comes from. They also say the word mella can be the sand that's hot and those hot rocks. They call that a mella also. You say akalna khubz al mella. We ate, hot bread. He says they would call a roasted animal a mella, or the bread is mella. Shawahu to grill, mellahu. All right, I'm just trying to see if there are any other good usages of it. It can be to grill, yes. It's the hot sand, yuhma, or the hot stones that you grill on top of them. وأصله الملة ويقال به مليلة وملالة ذا حرارة, when something is hot. فكأن مملو خريت فلا والملة والملال عرق الحمى. Right. والملة الشريعة. Here, this is what I was trying to get to when he connects it all to that. He says, and it is also said, وَأَمْلَلْتَ الْكِتَابِ وَأَمْلَيْتُهُ إِذَا أَلْقَيْتُهُ. This is the point that this is where we get the meaning of millah for our religion. He says, and أَمْلَلْتُ الْكِتَابِ. I've dictated the book, right? وَأَمْلَيْتُهُ. i.e. I've أَلْقَيْتُ عَلَى الْكَاتِبِ لِيَكْتُبْ. I've delivered to the scribe so he can write. Right? He says, and likewise you say mella thob. The thob has become mel, i.e. darazahu an qira' at-tahdhib, it's been organized and put together. Wa malla thobahu yamulluhu, when you sew it together. Subhanallah. Like to sew it up. I told you our language, our hood language, is similar to Arabic in a lot of ways. He sewed it up. He got that sewed up. Right? Meaning what? Mateen. Right? There's it's all connected. It's all tied together. Every thread. You pull one thread, no, but it's all connected. It's all sewn together. It's woven together. It's interlaced. He says, يقال منه مللت الثوب الفتح والملة الشريعة والدين وفي الحديث لا يتوارث أهل ملتين. Like Islam or Nasraniya وهي معظم الدين وجملة ما يجي به الرسل, to the end of it, right?
We can translate millah here, a complete deen.
The way that I've seen it in the past is in the way of life, the complete way of life. Or religion. Like deen is religion and millah is religion. But what does religion mean? Now you got to go to the English word and see. This is an exercise for those who wish to be translators. What's the English word that you like? Religion?
No.
Why not?
I don't like any word.
You got to speak to a person in English.
I'll just use what's common.
Deen, ya akhi, deen.
Religion.
Deen.
What you like?
So you got to figure out the word. Where does the word religion come from? First recorded in 1150 to 1200 from the Middle English religion, which came from the Old French religion, or directly from the Latin religion, stemming from religio, consciousness, piety, equivalent to relig, to tie, to fasten, ligar, to bind together. So religion matches well with the word what? Millah. You see what I'm saying? And so when you're looking for a translation, you're like, okay, what's the best word to translate here? I like the way the word religion plays with the word millah. Okay, what did deen mean?
That.
What did deen mean? It translates religion, but what do you say? Something that's owed. Is there a word in English that has the connotations of religion but also carries with it that which is owed? The debt, right? He sent him with the upright debt. No, so let's look at the synonyms. Observance, or piety, preference, religiosity, rights, debts, rights, things that are owed, sacrifice, standards, qayyim, standards, right? Veneration, no, spirituality, high power, common. And like this, when you're translating, you grow your vocabulary in both fields. And then you can just also be simple and say, he sent it with the good religion or the upright religion, the correct way of life. And okay, but that's what they miss in English. In English, you don't get that. You don't know what millah means. But now in Arabic, you understand millah means what? It's all tied together. It's all connected. If it was from other than Allah, what would have been there? A lot of mistakes. But it's all connected. When you read Fatiha and then you read another surah, and you say, oh, it's just like what he said in Fatiha. And you tie it back together, you like, it blew my mind. Because that's what the book does. Anyway, so let's take the next paragraph. We said, wabad. Let's read this. Let's translate this paragraph and we'll be done, inshallah. So I know we're hitting an hour right now. He says, wabad. This statement, wabad, some people don't like it. Right? And others say it's okay. Some of them say they don't like it because it's not Arabic. Some of them say it is Arabic. The phrase in Arabic is what? Amma ba'd. Right? And amma ba'd is a phrase that means something else. Meaning the word amma is shartiyya. Right? It's an ism fi'l that means mahma yakun min shay. Whatever else after this. Whatever else y'all gonna do later, right now is this. Right? That's what amma ba'd means. Whatever y'all gonna do later, what y'all gonna do tomorrow? Amma ba'd right now is what? This. Whatever y'all think about later, mahma yakun min shay'in ba'd. Fahadha, then this is, and you use it like that. And then, so the word whatever will be, i.e. whatever will be after, right? Whatever will be, and then ba'd after. Whatever will be after this, instead of using all of those words, they just say amma. And amma means whatever will be. Whatever will be is what amma means here. Mahma yakun min shay. Whatever. Right? Mahma turid. Mahma turid. Ana rajul. Mata tadhun. Whatever you think, ana rajul. Right? Whatever you think, I'm a man. لا لا الرجل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنا ذكر إن شاء الله. Right? مهما يكون, whatever will be from things later, then this is. And how do you use amma ba'd? Some people, they say you use it to transition from topic to topic. We say no, that's not right, because we transition from topics to topic all the time. Amma ba'd is what you use to begin getting into the topic. When you want to delve into your topic, you come and you say what? Amma ba'd. Everything else I was saying before, I was just introducing my thoughts. But now, this is the topic. Huh? Let's get to work. ممتاز. مهما يكون من شيء بعد فهذا بارك الله فيكم كتاب الطهارة. Right? Whatever y'all was studying later, this is Kitab al-Tahara. So like this, you use amma ba'd. And some people say this is the Fasl al-Khitab that was given to Dawood. Right? Some people say it is the Fasl al-Khitab that was given to Dawood. And others say no. And some of them say that this was something that was given to our prophet, that concise speech. And it's a very important statement. We've already mentioned that. They say as a Muslim, when you start your book, you got to have in it what? Amma ba'd. Right, that's one of the 4 things you got to have in it. Amma ba'd. Yes? Huh? Yes. When you're writing a book, you should say amma ba'd in it. Yeah. In alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu. There's whole sections in Bukhari and Muslim, amma ba'd. There's whole chapters about saying amma ba'd. Huh? Some of them say this is the fasl al-khitab that was given to Dawood. What's the ayah? وَأَتَيْنَاهُ فَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ. Some of them say that this is it, the thing that separates your address. Fasl al-khitab. Right? It separated what I'm talking about from what I'm not talking about. But some people say, no, this was unique for our prophet. He was the first one to get it. Right? But the point is, it's an important statement. And it just shows you, like, our religion, like, we're all over with it. Right? Our religion covers language. It covers math. It covers science. It covers tawheed. It covers etiquette. It covers drinking. It covers clothing. Right? We have our own system for everything. So, like, what do Christians say when they open their book? Right? You read, you'll find them having some things in common. Right? Not even that. They don't do that no more. Like, today, when you go read a book, like they have, like when you go to school, they teach, okay, this is how you want to write an effective book. You need to have an intention grabber, and you need to have an introduction, and your introduction needs to possess either a question or pose a statement or have a shock statement to it, right? Repetition, right? You start off your book with the statement, have you ever felt hungry? I used to ask myself the same questions until, right? That's how they tell you should write. And they spent years trying to figure out what's the effective ways to write. You think I'm joking? They spent generations and decades trying to figure out how to write a good book. It is exactly philosophy. Because philosophy is the love of wisdom. And so they figured out who was the first person to them to write about it? Aristotle. They call it the Aristotelian method. How to present an effective speech. If you take a communications course in school, they'll tell you, okay, Aristotle came up with this idea. And then from there, they took it, it was directional. And then they made it interdirectional. And then they made it transdirectional, right? And does the listener have a role or not? And all of these things, it's in the Quran. It was in the Quran way and clear. I took a course at the college here. It was a communications course. Alhamdulillah, I passed. Ubashirukum, I passed. And the course was like the history of communication. And we had to write a paper. And my paper was how everything y'all got, Islam already gave it to us. When you're arguing with somebody, should you let them start or should you start?
Let them start.
Why?
Musa did it.
Because Musa did it, right? قال إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون أول من ألقى قال بل ألقوا.
If you don't say, then
Let them talk.
Yeah, let them talk.
One, they gonna shoot themselves in the foot half the time. And if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, what they gonna give me? Their strongest arrow. When they give me their strongest arrow, now I can visualize what they're saying and respond adequately.
Yeah.
Thus, not needing to do it again. I can kill them with one blow.
Alhamdulillah.
And that's in the Quran. How do we argue? How do we debate? How do we communicate? Does the listener have a role in communication? Yeah. Aristotle said no. You see what I'm saying? And then they said, no, Aristotle was wrong. We already knew Aristotle because Allah says what when the Quran is being recited? فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا. Pay attention. If I'm talking, do what? Pay attention. Our religion covers it all. Does our religion teach us how to bake a cake? Yeah. It covers it all. Our religion, مَا فَرَطْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ وَتَفْصِيلَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Right? We didn't leave anything out of the book. And we gave every detail in the book. He don't believe it. You don't believe Allah taught us how to cook a cake, bake a cake in the Quran?
I've never heard it.
Okay. How do you bake a cake?
You got your flour, water,
Uh-huh.
put it in the oven, something like that.
So what kind of things you need? Ingredients, right?
Yeah.
So you need what kind of ingredients? Kulu min at-tayyibati. Eat the good things. So Allah is teaching us to get what kind of ingredients?
The good ones.
And He's telling us about the blessings that He gave us in wheat and all of these things. Okay? He's telling us about the blessings He gave us in our ovens. And then I need to know the steps, right? That's what you're talking about. Where does Allah tell you the steps of how to cook a cake? What does Allah tell you to do if you don't know something? Ask the people who know. Allah told me how to cook a cake. You don't know how to make it? Go ask the people who do. Right? He showed me what ingredients I could use, what ingredients I can't use. He told me to be appreciative of the blessing that He gave me. So when I'm eating this cake, I'm saying what? Bismillah, alhamdulillah. And as far as the steps on how to make it, he's telling me who to ask. Right? Min kulli mathal. And we've set every example in this Quran. Right? Anyway, the point of it is that he said, Amma ba'd, or wa ba'd here. فَإِنِّي كُنْتُ قَدْ نَهَيْتُ. Indeed, I have previously forbidden. فَإِنِّي, indeed, I kuntu, used to, قَدْ نَهَيْتُ. Right? Definitely I did. Right? It's like a... Okay, yeah. So indeed, I definitely... But it's like saying something for sure, but being unsure about it. I know I did it, but I don't know when I did it. I don't know. I can't remember the details, but I know I did it.
Well, that's what that means?
Yes. فَإِنِّي كُنْتُ قَدْ نَهَيْتُ, right?
I thought he was just saying, like, I'm for real.
No. He know he did it, for real. Qad. But see, the word qad in Arabic has multiple meanings. Right? Qad qamat as-salat. What's that mean? Qad. The salat is established. Indeed. Certain. Or it's about to be established. Qad can also mean not sure.
But that's when it's like...
Present tense.
Yeah.
قد ينجح المؤمن أو قد يصدق الكاذب. Maybe a liar will tell the truth. They call it taqleel and takthir and tahqiq and tashkik. So qad has these different meanings. And qad here is saying that I did it for sure. But it's just, you're going to see like the expression, like the way it comes across to the ear. It's like, inni qad kuntu. Like, why does he say kuntu qad nahayt? I used to for sure forbade. Right? I used to for sure forbade. Right? Indeed, in the past, I did this. But what was the details? I don't know. And this is a theme with Shaykh al-Islam. Shaykh al-Islam kathir al-kitab. He used to write a lot. He used to write so much. And when he would write something for you, he would tell you he wrote something else for him that has it in there. But you're from Turkey and you're from, not Mali, where? Ethiopia. So where are you going to get his book from? Right? I already wrote about this in the book I gave to Aboud, but inshallah. Ibn Taymiyyah, he would always do something like that, right? I've already talked about this here, referred to it there, and this is something we're not going to talk about right now, right? And one of the best things you can do as a student is to try to follow up on all of that. Try to figure out where he talked about this before, because, and we're not going to finish this paragraph. We're going to say this the next week. But
Can you just finish these two?
one of the things that Ibn Taymiyyah does, so he does a lot of things, but what makes his work difficult for some, he has a couple of qualities that you have to understand how to read his books. One of his qualities, he takes something really big and detailed and makes it really simple. Right? He'll take something like a big concept, a big thought, and he'll break it down to its smallest portion. And you say, well, how was that difficult? It's because to really understand the value of what he did, you need to understand what? All of the big concept that he was talking about. So if he's talking about an issue in philosophy, and he just makes a simple point, he breaks it down to where there's like a bite-sized morsel, like it's hard to necessarily understand and comprehend what he's talking about. Because to understand what he's talking about, you have to have all of that background information, right? So that can be hard if you don't have the background information. When he starts using words like al-arad and al-jism and al-jawhar, right? Like he'll make a point and he'll say, and this conversation that you say that the arad has to come before this is falsehood because it necessitates that a jawhar can exist without an arad. And you'd be like, huh? And it was a simple point, clear. But it's like you have to understand all of that background. So that's one thing that you have to understand about Ibn Taymiyyah when you read his work. He'll take something that's very difficult and make it bite-sized. And so it's difficult because you need all of that background information. No, he's talking to you like you already know it. And that's the difference between Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, and Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. The difference between them is the difference between their people. The people during the time of Ibn Taymiyyah were extremely read and intelligent. This was a time when Islam was at its peak. And Islam was the thinkers. And so when the people he talked to, most of them were what? Thinkers. As opposed to when Islam, the people started to decline and they got back to idolatry and things like that. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's books are like I'lam, Man Rabbuk, Ma Dinuk, Ma Nabiyuk, right? Like, it's almost like he's talking to a child. And it's not because his books are less valuable or he's less intelligent. He's talking to the people and what they understand. And that's why we see his books had such a great effect during our time. Whereas if you tried to teach the people the books of Ibn Taymiyyah during that time, they can't comprehend it. And the Prophet said, address the people with what they understand. Do you want them to disbelieve in Allah and His Messenger? And that's a lesson in da'wah. What books did Ibn Abdul Wahhab learn from? The books of Ibn Taymiyyah. Thalathatul Usul, you can find it in Ibn al-Qayyim's book, I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, has a whole section on it. Knowing your Lord, knowing the Prophet, knowing the deen, right? But he took it, and let me put it in this package for these people. So the point is that Ibn Taymiyyah, he won't refer you to it because he thinks you already know it, right? Or he'll refer to it in a place where he talked about it somewhere else that you're like, well, where is that at? Another thing that he does is he takes something that's really simple and spreads it out. So it's like you understood it, what he said, but then when he's talking about it, you see all the secrets behind it. And that can be difficult to comprehend because you have to stay with him. You have to stay focused, right? Go ahead.
Would he do that, like the best knowledge, would he do that at the beginning or at the end?
Well, I mean, he obviously didn't do it in the crib, right? As an infant. But I mean, at what stage did Ibn Taymiyyah become Ibn Taymiyyah? It was very early. We talked about it in the introduction. 18 years old, he's the mufti. 18 years old, he's taking over the chair in the masjid teaching, right? By 31, he's already imprisoned as Shaykh al-Islam. So what do you mean early in life? I mean, he was Ibn Taymiyyah from an early point. But what was the key that gave him that ability? And this is what we overlook. And this is what I overlook. And all of us, a lot of us overlook it in our action. What gave him that ability? His familiarity with the Quran. When the Quran is your source that you build upon and you have a strong because all of the knowledge is where? The hadith is in the Quran, the fiqh is in the Quran, the aqeedah is in the Quran, the etiquette is in the Quran, the history is in the Quran, the language is in the Quran. All of it is in the Quran. So if you approach the Quran correctly, then you'll find your level being elevated because you'll have a mastery over all of those fields because you're saying in those fields the statements of Allah. And what Allah is giving you is greater than what you can get from somebody else. And that's a deficiency of ours, as Salafis specifically, right? You see us, we know what Bin Baz said. We know what Uthaymeen said. We know what Shaykh al-Albani said, right? You ask us, well, no, Shaykh al-Albani said this about that. But if you ask us, what's this ayah? What is the ayat here in this surah? What did Allah say? What's the tafsir of it, right? You'll find us deficient. And that's something I think us as a group need to improve in any circumstance. So that's what he would do. He would take something very simple and spread it out. He would make it like he would show you secrets behind it that you didn't understand.
Variations.
I'll give an example because I like talking about this, and I know we off topic. I know Father want to go. He's checking his phone, he bored. But this is a great example. We'll stop at this because there are other things he do, but we'll stop at this. How he takes something simple and spreads it out. Surat Yasin. Anybody know Yasin?
Like memory?
Memory, not memory. You're aware. You're aware of not Yasin, right? Allah says in the Quran in Surat Yasin, وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. And he sets for us an example, and he forgets his own self, right? He says, who will give life to the dead, or who will bring back life to these bones when they become ramim, when they become dust, right? قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة. He'll give life to it, the one who produced it the first time. وهو بكل خلق عليم. And he knows good about, he's well aware of every creation. All right, that's deep. Everybody understand it, right? He did it once, he can do it again. When your guys are dust and bones and the wind spreads you around, Allah knows where all of your pieces are, right? And so he did it the first time. It's easier the second time because the first time there was nothing. Now there's dust particles that can be put back together. He knows where all the dust particle is, and he already knows how to put you together because he did it the first time, right? All of that's clear. وهو قال يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم. What's the next ayah? الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون. He's the one who made for you from that green tree a fire that you all use to burn your fuel, like to ignite with your fuel, to get lit with as a fuel, right? You use this as a fuel. First question, what's that have to do with the ayah? First question, did everybody understand that ayah? Think about the greatness of Allah. He made from this tree a fire that you use as fuel. Right. Clear? Cut? Understood? Everybody understand it, right?
Yeah.
Huh? You understand? Allah gave you a tree, and this tree, he made fire come out the tree. And the fire that comes out this tree, you use it as what? As fuel. That's clear, right? It's a simple point. First question, why did he mention it here? Why? Allah was talking about recreating mankind. Why mention a tree and fire?
Because they diverted from
As an example of what?
Tree dies.
As an example of life.
As an example of what?
Life.
Life? The tree's not alive.
Doing something that's impossible.
It's impossible.
Bring the fire from
Okay, to show how his ability. He's mentioning it here to show his ability, right? Okay, that's another level. That's kind of clear. He got that. Okay, why the tree in the fire? How does that show that he is able to bring life to bones that were dead?
Yeah, Ramin.
Uh-huh.
They burned the body.
No, they didn't burn them. Ramim is just dried bones. You're on the right path, though.
Chop the tree down, burn
Chop
it,
the tree down, okay.
goes back.
But no, he didn't say nothing about a chopped tree. He just said a green tree.
Burn it, right?
It's rooted to the earth or something.
I mean, there's more
Because a
trees that
green
go
tree
back.
is hard to burn. It's wet.
I don't know.
A green tree is hard to burn because it's wet. Yeah. Can you burn when you need to fire? What they tell you to get?
Wood.
Kindle. You need that dry wood. Can't burn a green tree, but Allah brings out of that green tree fire. Clear, right? Look at that. Another level. Like there's even a level higher than that. Therefore, the philosophers, they say there are 4 ingredients. The mizaj, the mixture of everything, is 4. It's one of 4. Like here we now like, okay, hold on, Ibn Taymiyyah. We got you. Allah is able. Look at, he creates fire out of a tree, especially a green tree that you can get fuel. No, there's a level higher than that. If you're intelligent, if you understand it. I'm take this simple point. We all got the basics. Now let's spread it out. The 4 mizaj are hot, cold, dry, and wet. Everything is a mixture of these. Hot or cold, dry or wet. Right? Think of something. Water is wet and cold. That's a good point. Dirt is dry and cold. Huh?
It can be hot.
No, dirt is cold. Dirt is cold.
Sun will make it hot.
The sun can heat it up, but the dirt is cold. Think of something else. Rock, dry and cold, dirt. I just want you to get in the habit of thinking of the mixtures. Anything, don't got to be elemental. Cloud. So what is the cloud? You got to know what the cloud is. I would probably go with wet and cold. Or you could say dry and cold because you got to start thinking. The miracle is what comes out of the cloud. The cloud is really dust particles. Dust is dry and cold. And what comes out of the cloud?
Rain,
Water.
water.
All right? And that's miraculous, right? Water comes out of a cloud. How does the cloud float, doesn't fall, full of water?
And it's a dust one.
Because you understand the nature of these things. It's a bunch of rocks in the sky that don't drop. And these rocks fly in the sky. And these flying rocks become a bag for tons of water. And this water, this water doesn't fall out of this bag until Allah wants, or whatever place He wants. Who can do that besides Allah? And you don't understand this till you understand the nature of things. So now let's look. Now that we understand hot, cold, wet, dry. Allah was setting the example of giving life to bones, right? What are bones? Dry and cold. And what will He turn them into? Huh? No, they're dry dust. They're wet, they're dry and cold. What will He turn them into? He says, Qul man yuhyi al-'idham, who will give life to these bones when they're dry dust. Allah is going to do what to them? He's going to turn them into, what is He going to turn the bones into? People. What are people? Warm and wet. No, people are warm and wet. You're hot-blooded. You're a warm creature and you have moisture, right? You're not a dry rock. So Allah's going to take cold and dry and turn it into what? Hot and wet. All right? It's amazing, but it's doable. It's amazing, especially at this level. But you can understand how something cold and dry can become hot and wet, right? It was cold, and then what happened? It heated up. It was dry, and then what happened? It got wet. Turning something cold and dry to something hot and wet is, you understand this. You can comprehend that. Now let's look at the stick. That's why He mentions it. هو الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر, the tree that's green. What is it? Wet and cold. It's something wet and cold. And what is He going to turn it into? Fire, which is what? Dry and hot. Which one is harder? Turning something cold and dry into something wet and hot, or turning something cold and wet into something dry and hot?
Something that's hot, that's more.
Which one is harder, the first one or the last one? The first one. No, the last one. The last one is harder. Something that's wet and cold, you're going to make it hot and dry? That's hard. This is harder than the other one. If I do this one that y'all already see, don't y'all see this stick? You already know I turned that into fire for you, right? And that is harder than turning dry bones into a living person. أفلا تعقلون هو الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا منهم توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر. Look at all these different creations I got in the skies, in the earth. Isn't the one who do that able to create the likes of you? Bala. Right? أنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. And like this, He took a small little ayah, not little because this Quran is azim, but He took an ayah that when you read it the first time, you got it. And when you read it the second time, I got it. I see where you was going with it. And when you read it the third time, it's like, I see that Allah is able to do this because He's able to do that. Yeah, but now let's look at the details that didn't need to be said. And what gave Him the mastery over this understanding? His mastery of the Quran. And like this is His introduction to a book, the pushing away the intellect, pushing away the claim contradiction between the intellect and the text. All of this to say if Allah can do this, He can do that. And it's an amazing book. So the point of it is that that's something that Ibn Taymiyyah does. He takes something simple, something that everybody gets and spreads it out. Or he takes something that's really hard to get and simplifies it. But both of those things can be difficult unless you're following along. And so as we read, we're going to notice those things. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.